Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to episode number 123 for July the 13th, 2021. And yes, I have not got my hair cut yet, but tonight's the night. 7 o'clock tonight, I get my hair cut. Yay. So, what have I been working on? Well, what's behind me you've seen before. I haven't done anything more with it. The top is finished. But I just haven't got around to layering it and quilting it. So what do I do when I don't get around to something? I start a new project. And the new project that I have started is this one. Now this is a pattern from the Missouri Star Quilt block magazine. It's called Jenny Lane, or it is subtitled Home is Where the Quilts Are. I kind of like that better. But I've always wanted to do one of these types of quilts with the houses on it. And I saw this one. I'm going to back up. I saw this one in the block magazine, and I thought I'd give it a go. Now there are 5 rows of these houses, and they're in a different sequence on each row. I have the 5 rows done. I just need to sew them together and then get the borders on and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really liking it. I had a few moments though of worry with this, and let me put this down and tell you what they were. Now, one of the things, you know, Missouri Star Quilt is famous for their tutorials and that kind of thing with Jenny Doan, and I watch them faithfully. Love Jenny Doan, love Missouri Star Quilt Company as well. So I didn't anticipate I would have any problems with one of their patterns, and I've made some of their patterns before with no problem. So I got working on this, but the dimensions were out on each block by 1/4 of an inch. So of course when that happens, you figure, okay, something's not right. I've either not cut something right, or my foot on my sewing machine is not doing an accurate 1/4 inch seam. So I double checked my measurements and my cutting. I even went in and I found this pattern a little bit confusing in the way that it was written. They were trying to help you speed up the process of cutting out these pieces, because there's a lot of little pieces to cut out to make those houses. And so they would say things like you need 5 of these, and then in brackets a 2 or something like that. You really had to study these instructions for this particular pattern, I found. And you could get lost in it, believe it or not, mainly because there were so many little pieces. And I was organizing them and labeling them and the whole bit. So I thought, okay, I've done something wrong. Now I was using my small stripology ruler for this. And I needed to cut some things at 1/4 of an inch. So like 5 1/4, 3 1/4, whatever. And that particular ruler, let me just grab it. This is the ruler I'm talking about, the stripology ruler. And on one end you have 1/2 inch increments, okay? And so the 0 line on this is right in a groove, so that's great. But when you turn it this way, you're getting 1/4 inch cuts, like 1 1/4, 1 3/4, 2 1/4, etc. And the trick here is, and I've done this many times, I think I should know better, is that this first slot is actually 1/4 inch. It is not at the 0 mark. The 0 mark is a dotted line, which you probably can't see, my ring light's getting in the way, along this edge. So you've got to line up your straight edge at that, not at the slot, to get the right size. Now, as I said, sometimes I forget, and I just go automatically to what I think is the 0 part, and then I'm out by 1/4 of an inch. So I thought, well, maybe that's what I've done on some of these pieces. So I went back in and I measured them, and they seemed to measure properly. But when they were all sewn in together in the block, the final measurement for the block was out by 1/4 of an inch. So I decided, all right, I was getting real muddled on all of this. So I decided, let's do this. Let's go back to square one. Let's just cut out pieces for one part of the block, not worry about cutting a whole bunch at the same time, and assemble one block just from those pieces. So I went in, I cut it again. I absolutely made sure that I was cutting the right size using that ruler, put it all together, still out by 1/4 of an inch. Then I'm thinking, is there something wrong with this ruler? that I've never noticed before. Maybe the measurements for the 1/4 inch aren't right. So I decided I'll use other rulers. So I did it again. I made the block, just one block, and I used my regular rulers, my straight rulers and that kind of thing. Double checked my measurements, the whole bit, was very, very, very careful. Put it all together, still out by 1/4 inch. So next thing I'm thinking is, all right, maybe the foot on my sewing machine is out. Maybe I need to adjust it. So I did a test piece, and it was out by a hair. So I adjusted it. So I had a scant 1/4 inch. Okay. Now on my Janome, I push one button under quilting for 1/4 inch and it lines everything up. And that's what I've been using, and I've checked it before and it's fine. So I made this minor little adjustment. Did everything again, out by 1/4 inch. So my conclusion is that something has happened in the mathematics when they wrote the pattern. I don't think it's me, but I'm not sure. I will be honest, doing the mathematics with quilting, and I was very good at mathematics in high school, okay? Had no problem with it really. But for some reason, my mind goes to mush when I'm doing calculations for quilts. So bottom line is this. I figured, well, I may be out by 1/4 inch, but that means every piece I make is going to be out by 1/4 inch, so it's not going to make any difference, is it? I mean, I don't really get too uptight about matching exactly the final dimensions of a quilt according to the pattern. In fact, does it ever work out exactly like that? I have found not. So I just carried on, and I've had to do a little fudging. I've had to do a little extra trimming here and there, but the rows have come out fine. And shouldn't be any problem when I put the rows together. But there you go. It's a mystery. I don't know why. I haven't figured that out. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The final product is what I'm aiming for here, and it'll be fine. But it is frustrating. So just beware. I guess sometimes this can happen with patterns. I mean, I don't know how they design a pattern. I don't know if they actually, they make the prototype quilt, write their pattern from that, and then give that pattern to somebody who hasn't had any experience with this particular quilt pattern and say, here, make it from those and test it. That's the way I think a pattern probably is tested. But I can't figure out why mine was out then. And I also watched her tutorial, because she has a tutorial for doing this quilt. Well, I did notice something in the tutorial, but the camera moved very quickly away from it. But she was getting a little bit of an overhang on some of the pieces that went in the block, exactly as I was. And she said nothing about that. Just moved right along very quickly, because you know Jenny Doan's tutorials are good, but they're quick. And so I'm thinking she was having the same problem, but just wasn't acknowledging it, or it didn't bother her. So I'm not going to let it bother me. It'll be fine. Okay, so what else have I been working on? How about some coffee? And you probably heard me slurp that. All right, so I've started on my Christmas presents, and I love giving Christmas presents. I really do. I love making presents for people. And I've got quite a few people who are not related to me to give Christmas presents to, because to be honest, I don't give anything to anybody related to me. They don't give me anything either. That's not a bad thing. It's just we've decided over the years that, you know, we don't need a lot of junk, so don't worry about it, kind of a thing. So I found, and I think I showed this to you before, these cute Christmas gnomes in the embroidery site I usually go to. And my original thought was I was going to do 4 of these, 4 different ones, and build a placemat, or not placemat, a table runner around them. Well, yeah, they're coming out fine. But then I'm thinking, well, if I was going to give these away as gifts, it wouldn't be this Christmas, because I would need to make probably about 10 of these table runners. And you know, even though it's a little bit repetitious and the pattern I'm using is not very complicated, do you really want to do that many? But what I did decide is that each one of those gnome embroidery patterns would make a nice table topper. And here we are. And this is my table topper. Now, this is my own design, but really it's not, because this is just very, very basic. I had somebody send me an email and wanted to know my cutting dimensions for this. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about, you know, people asking me for tutorials and things and what my feelings are about that. But anyways, I said it's very basic. It's just 4 flying geese and, you know, based around a center square. So I did send that person the cutting dimensions, were the dimensions for each of the component parts. You know, it's an 8.5 square in the center unfinished. The flying geese are 2 by 4 finished, so 2.5 by 4.5 unfinished. The blocks in the corners are 4.5 inches square unfinished, and then you just add a little border around it, and you know, your backing, your batting, your binding, and you're done. It's very, very, very simple. Okay. So yeah, so it makes a nice little table topper, and I did bind this in the way that you bind a quilt. A lot of times when I make a table runner or a table topper, I will do the, I'm not sure what they call it. In England, they call it bagging it out when you're making clothes, which, you know, you've got it inside out when you're doing the sewing together, and then you pull it all through right sides out, and it's got, you know, it's nice and bound around the edges. And I usually do that with, I have to put this down now. Oh, here's the back, just in case you're interested. This fabric I used on the back. Usually I do it that way, this bagging out, or I don't know, is it a blanket style or something like that? Don't know what the technical term is for that. If somebody knows, put it in the comments below. Anyways, I do have a problem when I do it that way. The problem comes when I quilt it, because you know, when you quilt something, fabric, you start in the center and the fabric squeezes out to the edges, and it's already sealed down. So what I get is I get to the edge and I get a big bulge on it, or a big tuck, or whatever. And I've decided that I'm not going to do that anymore. If it's something I'm going to actually quilt, I'm going to take the time to put a regular binding on it, because then you don't have that problem. So that's what I'm doing. And really, it doesn't take that much more time. And I think too, it gives it a nicer finished look as well. So that's what I did with this one. And I did quilt it. I did stitch in the ditch on all the blocks. And then I did some wavy line walking foot quilting, you know, all the way around. It was just sort of a continuous line. So it goes, you know, like this way, and then it gets bigger and it gets bigger until I got to the edge. And then I had the centerpiece, and I wasn't going to do any quilting on it because that's all embroidery, but there's those open negative spots on there, the white spots. So I did a little bit, and all I did was echo. I just went around, you know, the embroidery design. I don't know if you can see that or not. Here, let me see if I can get it up closer. And then just sort of, you know, repeated it, followed it out until I got to the edge of the block. So fairly quick, fairly easy. This one, the first one, took me a while to do. I haven't done the other ones yet, only because I was working out what it was going to look like. But I think they turned out pretty nice. And I should feel complimented that somebody asked me what the cutting dimensions were. Honestly, okay, maybe I shouldn't admit to this, but that email annoyed me slightly. I'm over it now, don't worry, whoever sent that to me. The reason being is, maybe they're a rank beginner. I don't know, they didn't say that. I just thought, well, like, it's basic. You can't figure it out. It isn't anything complicated. But then I kind of got over that and thought, well, no, this person is looking towards me for help, and that's why I have this channel. So yeah, I centered the cutting dimensions for it. And then that got me thinking about tutorials, and well, I'm going to come to that near the end of today's video. So that's done. Now, it's gnomes. So I'm thinking of putting together a gnome package of these Christmas gifts. You know, I've been making pin cushions, various ones using my 3D printer. Well, I found it's actually for a soap dish that has a little gnome, and in front of him is the soap dish part. And I've altered it slightly in a program, and I'm now printing out the prototype as we speak. And my idea is that that will become not a soap dish, but it will become a pin cushion. I'm hoping to see. And I thought it would be really cute to couple that with a table runner. And I have a freestanding lace little gnome guy. And what did I do with him? I should show him to you. Where did I put my box? I'll be back. Okay, so I found him. So here he is. He's actually got a little hoop thing, a little hole thing at the top, meant to be sort of like a Christmas decoration, but I thought he was really cute. So I thought I would make a bunch of these to go along with the table topper and the pin cushion as well. I like doing things that are a theme sort of idea. Now I also have some other embroidery designs for making more table toppers, but are not gnomes. They're actually Santa Clauses, but they're very artistic Santa Clauses. Actually, they have a very elegant look for them. And I bought some dark fabric, actually black Christmas fabric. I know black's not a Christmas color, right? But let's think outside of the box to do those on. Now, I haven't done any of those yet because I was waiting for my fabric to arrive, and it has arrived. In a few minutes, I'm going to show that to you because I ordered a bunch of Christmas fabric from Peachtree. So yeah, that's my idea for Christmas gifts this year. And they're going to the ladies at Ultimate Sewing. Shh. I hope none of them are watching this. If they are, you're going to have to act surprised. Okay, so what else has been happening? Oh, working on. Okay. All right, don't laugh, because this is kind of hideous. But I want to try my hand at fabric painting. So I've watched some videos and different things about it. And you know, basically what I have found is you can use any kind of paint to paint on fabric. I bought some broadcloth because that seemed to be what one of the experts that do this was saying she used. So I got it, and so I gave it a try. Now, I'm working on a video tutorial kind of thing about this as I work through it. So this is not finished yet, but this was the start. Okay, now it's my weak attempt to almost paint a landscape. At first I was just going to brush color across this and get sort of a gradient sort of look. And then I got playing around, as I often do, and I started putting these brush strokes in to make it look like grass, and then I tried other colors, and it got progressively darker and before I stopped. So I'm not done. The next stage of this is to lighten this up a little bit, and I may do some rubber stamping on it, but in paint. I'm thinking something in a lighter color like white. I'm thinking butterflies. I think I have a butterfly foam stamp that I could use for this. So I'm still playing. I'm just playing. What will I do with it when I get it done? I have no idea. We'll see. But it's an experiment, and I love to experiment, so I thought I'd give this a go. Okay, so what else? Well, in the past week we had two events here. I had my monthly craft and chat, and that was fun as always. And on Saturday I had Stephen's creative birthday bash. My birthday's tomorrow, Wednesday, July the 14th. It's Bastille Day in France. Hey, I have a holiday on my birthday. Well, if I was French. Yeah, and it's coupled with the toppling of an empire. Okay, whatever. There weren't a lot of you there. Thank you very much. I'm just joking. But, you know, it's not quantity, it's quality. It's also quantity. But anyways, there were about 12 of us, and it was fun. It was really fun. And there were some amazing things that people were working on. I mean, anytime I do one of these Zoom live connection things with other people, it's amazing what people make. And really, and there were people on there as well. I want to interview you. So don't hesitate, drop me an email. I have one of you already on my list that I'm interviewing. But there's others of you. And you're all very talented and all very creative. And that's what I want. Those are the people I want to interview. Basically, I want to interview anybody because I think everybody's got talent. So, you know, connections or how to connect with me is in the show notes below. So think about it. Think about it seriously. Anyways, it was a great day. Had a lot of fun with it. Now, having said that and looking forward, and I hate that expression, looking forward, but okay, I'm using it. Tail end of September, I'm thinking of having another Idiot Quilt retreat. And there will be notices about that well in advance. There will be pre-registration, and I am seriously considering charging a non-refundable registration fee. It won't be much. At the most, it would be $10, probably more like $5. The reason I'm doing that is because I learned from the first one I had that I had so many people that I had to start a waiting list, and then there were people who didn't show up. And I didn't know they weren't going to show up because they never made any indication they weren't going to show up. And there was a spot somebody could have had, but it was too late to get them in. So I figure if you put your money where your mouth is, then that will avoid maybe that problem. The other reason that I would be charging is for prizes. I'm not trying to make money off of this thing, but I'm also not trying to go into the hole either, okay? I like you, but let's face it, I like to eat too. So if I have to choose between you and having food for, or money for food, then you lose. But I could go back to the people that sponsored me before or maybe find some new ones, but I don't want to bother the people that were so generous the first time around with the prizes. And also there was a little bit of a problem for some people if they won one of the gift certificates, because a lot of the people who attended that retreat were from the States. And of course I was focused on places in my own area here in Ontario, Canada. And yes, people could use those gift certificates at those particular stores, but there would be shipping involved, and depending on where you lived, well, it could get a little pricey. So what I'm thinking instead is taking the pre-registration money or the registration money and buying Amazon gift certificates. They're easy for me to get to you because if you win, I send it to your email address. Easy peasy. Now you can't buy Amazon gift certificates at the Canadian branch of Amazon for Americans because it won't work, and vice versa. But that's not a problem. What I would do is I would not purchase the gift certificates until after I knew who the winners were. And then if you were in the States, I would get you American gift certificate. If you're Canadian, I get you a Canadian gift certificate. If you're from overseas, well, with the UK, I can do the same thing. So pending there, we'll see. That's what I'm thinking right now. All of this is just on the top of my head. I haven't made any definite decisions, but once I do, you will know about it. So that'll probably be tail end of September, 1st of October. I'm thinking making it thematic, although you don't have to stick to the theme. Getting our Christmas sewing done, that kind of thing. Okay, enough babble. So let's talk about Peachtree Quilts. Not so much about Peachtree Quilts, but about what I bought online at Peachtree Quilts. Well, I'm into Christmas and right now, and I want Christmas fabric. Well, it depends on where you go. Some places don't have any Christmas fabric. Some places have last year's Christmas fabrics, which it doesn't bother me. If I like it, I like it. I don't care if it was last year or 5 years ago. It's design. But going to a physical store and trying to buy some is not that easy right now. And has nothing to do with COVID. It's just a question of, do they have it in stock yet? I'll be honest, I want to give all my business first off to my favorite quilting store in my area, Ultimate Sewing. You know that. So I was in Ultimate Sewing, and she didn't have any of her fabric in yet from Christmas. And her suppliers are telling her she may not get it until the fall. Well, I don't want to wait till then. Now, I'll probably, when she does get some in, I will probably be buying more of it anyways, you know, for future Christmases, kind of a deal. But in the meantime, I wanted some more Christmas fabric. So I went online to Peachtree. Peachtree had Christmas fabrics. They didn't have a lot to choose from yet, so I suspect what they had may not have been the newest stuff, but that's okay. So I bought some. Now, originally when I went there, well, they had a sale. They had a sale. I think it was 25% off. So I had to take advantage of the sale too, on top of that. I wanted dark black Christmas fabric, and they had a line there that I liked because, as I was saying earlier, I have these embroidery designs that'll look great on black. Well, I put in my order, plus I ordered some other Christmas fabrics as well, mostly the type of thing you would use as background or blenders, and because I still have quite a lot of Christmas fabric left over from last year. They phoned me. This is one thing I like about Peachtree. As soon as they were filling out my order, they called me to say, okay, they did not have the black one that I had ordered, but, and this I also like, is they suggested another one that I had not paid attention to when I was on their website, and I trust their suggestions. So I said, sure, give me 2 meters of that one, and I'm very pleased with it because here it is. Silver and black. I think that's going to look so good with those designs that I was telling you about. I haven't tried one yet because I was waiting for this fabric, and I was waiting to show it to you as well before I start cutting into it. But yeah, I really like that. I think that's really elegant. Now, is it specifically Christmas? It's neutral enough that you could use it for other things as well, but it does have that Christmassy mood to it. And then I bought some of this with some gold sparkle in it. The one thing I like about Christmas fabrics is when you get the shimmer in them. I think that's really cool. And I bought the equivalent in a green. As I said, in my mind, these are going to be blenders or background. And then this is sort of the comparable to the black. Same design except in red, which is really cool. Now, here's something I just realized as I was showing you this. Why didn't I get the black and this? Why didn't I order the same black at the same time? Because it's got the same pattern and it would be a nice complementary piece. You know, these two will go together. Well, everything goes with black, right? But that didn't dawn on me at that time. So I don't know if this was serendipitous or what, but the suggestion from the staff person at Peachtree that made this suggestion, I wonder if she looked at this and thought, hey, this would work even better. Well, if she did, wow, I am impressed. That is good service. Okay, but I'm always impressed with Peachtree, as you know. And you want to know something? You can still use my discount code. I asked Patrick about that, and he said, yeah, it never runs out. So if you want 10% off an order at Peachtree, all you have to put in is Stephen Bland, spell Stephen with a V, and make sure you put an end on it. I'm not Steve Bland, I'm Stephen Bland, 10, and you'll get 10% off your entire order. Okay, bonus. And you can write them a little note and let them know that if you've never been there before and you found them through me. I don't get anything for it, but you know, I want Peachtree to know that I appreciate what they do for me and that I love them. And that's also why right under Ultimate Sewing's link, you have Peachtree's link, because I also love them. Okay. Oh, and I bought 2 of these. These were sort of an afterthought, but you know, when I was on there, I thought I'd go with it. Oh yeah, and shipping at the same time was only $5 anywhere in Canada. They run that special every now and then, so I took advantage of that as well. So here we go. I bought 2 charm packs, 42 squares each. They're both the same. and it's called Winter White, but it's not all in white. But again, these will make great, blenders. Actually, I'm sure I can make an entire quilt out of a couple of packs of these. And I do want to do a Christmas quilt. Do I need another Christmas quilt? No, I don't. I've got all kinds of them. They're all in my crawl space, all in a great big huge zip up type of plastic container bag and everything. I bring them out at Christmas. But I like making Christmas projects, so I got to give some things away. Okay, so that's what I got from Peachtree. All right, what's that taking me to? Little demo here, quickie. Now, you know that what I've been doing when I put my quilts together, when I sandwich them together, getting them ready for quilting, that I was using spray basting technique. Now I use a combination of spray basting and pinning because I find, although it takes extra time, it is well worth the extra time because I avoid tucks. So maybe some of the old-fashioned ways are the best ways still. But I have decided that, well, I have found that I buy the quilting pins. They have a little bit of a curve in them, and they're like a safety pin. I like the longer ones as opposed to the shorter ones because I get a better grip on the quilt with it. Well, Clover came out with, and I don't think these have been on the market all that long. This is what the cover looks like. I trimmed a little bit of it off because I keep these in this little box. These are called Clover Wonder pins, not clips, pins. And they're expensive. You get 20 of them for, it cost me $26.50 Canadian for this package. And I looked online and I could get them on Amazon.ca for about $18.99. However, they were coming from a third-party seller and I don't like that. I try to avoid buying things from a third-party seller if I can on Amazon because I've had mixed results with that. Initially, I almost bit the bullet and said, okay, I'm going to order 5 packages of these from Amazon, from the third-party seller. That was going to be over $100 worth of pins, and I was only going to get 100 of them, and actually, believe me, you need more than 100 for most quilts. You do. But then I thought, but what if I don't like them? I've wasted that money on this. So I'd heard mixed reviews about them, so I just put it on hold. Then I was buying fabric at Annie's, another local quilting store from me, and I talked about those last week or whenever, and I got a package of them, and I think I pointed it out last week, just to try. So I have tried them. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with them. They're pretty good. Right in way, they're easy to get in, they're easy to get out. They claim you can do this all with one hand. No, you cannot. At least not for pinning them in. Maybe for getting them out you could, but no. And here's the reason why. There's a little tiny thing up here that holds the pointy end of your pin in there. Now, see what I'm doing right now? And I didn't do that on purpose. Trying to get it in there lined up, maybe with practice, but you got to fiddle with it to get it to settle into that little holder for it. The other thing that I'm not happy with on these is the size. These are 1 1/4 inch. I find them just a little short. I would prefer it at 1 1/2, ideally at 1 3/4 inches. Bigger is better, size matters. That's just my feeling. I think I can live with this little way of hooking it in. But if they were to come out with ones that were 1/4 inch larger or 1/2 inch larger, I would be very happy with them. And maybe they will. But for now, I have 20 of them in this box. And that's all I'm going to have. I will use them. But I'm not going to buy any more. Not until I wait and see if they come out with little longer ones. And also at that price, well, if it's got the name Clover on it, you know you're going to be paying double for it, because everything Clover puts out, it's their name. You're going to pay a lot more for it, like Wonder Clips. I love Wonder Clips by Clover, but I have bought third-party Wonder Clips as well, which, yeah, They cost me a lot less and they work pretty good. I mean, I prefer the Clover Wonder clips because they are a good product, but my God, they're expensive. Really expensive. So I buy them in little bits in that to stock up on them, not buy a whole bunch at once. Okay, so that was my little demo. Well, I didn't really demo it, but you know how to put them in. I explained how they work. Okay, so that takes us to the subscribers quilt of the week. This is by one of my regular subscribers, Yvonne McNeil, and she sent me some great shots of what she's working on. So I'm going to insert that little video right here for you now. This week's quilts and projects from a subscriber are from Yvonne McNeil, and we have seen some of Yvonne McNeil's works in the past, and here's a few more. She writes, the two first ones are curtains I made for my kitchen using duck cotton from Walmart. Put eyelets in the bottom ones and used fencing wire to string them up. That's interesting. They cover up all my soap making supplies. Oh, good idea. The next picture is a table runner I'm making for my son's housewarming. There will be matching placemats and a fabric box to keep them in. I'm thinking of a reversible but not sure. The dark strip on the side is binding as well as borders for the placemats. The last picture is going to be pin cushions for Christmas, but they still need embellishments. Used some terracotta planters, and the two red ones are small tin buckets for larger pin cushions. I used walnut shell and fiberfill for the stuffing. So I see that you're into pin cushions, Yvonne. So am I, as you well know. But they're a great idea. And putting the walnut shells in there, I hear, helps to sharpen your pins as they go in and out of the pin cushion. So all of these are very innovative ideas, all very lovely, and thanks so much for showing them to us. So if you want to send me some things, you know the routine, and it's in the show notes, how to get something to me to feature. And I need things, so don't be shy. Okay, in the show notes there's also the latest episode to So Chatty. It's the second part of us talking about hacks and unexpected tools that you may find in your sewing room that are useful. We had so many in the first one that we had to split it into two parts. And there is a link for the pattern I'm going to talk about in a moment. And there is a link to Three Dogs Quilting, and that's the online store that I am reviewing later. And there is a link to the Idiot Quilter Presents, and this time the interview is with Johan from Australia. And Johan makes the cutest little stuffed bears, and he does other things as well. He's a great guy. He does have a YouTube channel, and his YouTube channel is linked in not in these show notes, but it's linked in the interview notes. It's called Go Ahead and Make Me, all one word. Check it out. I wish I lived in Australia because I think Johan and I would be really great friends. And then there's a link, 3 links to my 3 favorite quilting stores as well. And each one of those have a website that you can go to and purchase from as well. So that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week. And this is Art Gallery Fabric TV. And I have a link for it in the show notes. And I'm just taking a look here because I just realized I jumped out of order on things. No, I didn't. It's there. So I'm stumbling over my words today. Sorry. I'm just going to have coffee. Okay, YouTube channel of the week is by Art Gallery Fabric TV. Now, I've talked about Art Gallery Fabric before because that's where I've gotten a lot of free patterns for modern quilts, and I've shown you some of those, and I've given you links to some of those in previous episodes. So take a look here at my review of their YouTube channel. This week's YouTube channel that I find very useful is called Art Gallery Fabric TV. I have reviewed Art Gallery Fabric lines of patterns before because they have a lot of free patterns, but Their YouTube channel is also very useful because it shows you different techniques, but it also shows you a lot of the fabrics that they have available. Yes, in somewhat it is a commercial, but it is a way of seeing what's out there in terms of fabrics, whether you buy them from them or from another company. They do show you different pattern though, as I said, and techniques that you can use. So overall, I find it a very useful site to know what's trendy right now. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you a pattern for a project that I want to make at some time in the future. It's on my vision board. Now last week I showed you a bunch of patterns that I got for making various bags, and this pattern I had ordered at the same time and I could not find it, and I thought that the company I ordered it from had not sent it to me, and I'd missed that when I was checking my order. Nope, my bad. In fact, I wrote them a little note and said, hey, I didn't get this pattern, and you know, I paid for it. And then I realized something. Stupid me. There was a bracket, because this is called the Poppins bag, and it has a steel bracket so that you can open up the top like a medicine bag, and in that package with the bracket, and it was a clear package, and this was sitting right on top of it, was this pattern. Yeah, what a dope. So I immediately got back onto the email and sent them a note and said, my bad, don't worry about it, I got it, sorry to have bothered you. So here it is. Now, I thought this was a bag by Annie. It is not. It is Auntie's 2 Patterns Poppins bag. Now I'm a little worried because, I mean, it looks like I haven't gone through the details of, you know, it looks very extensive. Looks like there's lots of pictures on how to put this bag together. I know that the by Annie bags, their patterns, as I've told you before, are very, very detailed and usually have a video that accompanies them. I don't know, this one might have too. I'll have to check it out. I'm just reading the back of it. Not seeing anything there that says they do. But anyways, I'm hoping I can handle this. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but it does look like a really great bag. It's big. They call it the Poppins bag because remember Mary Poppins bag? She was pulling out an umbrella, a coat stand, all kinds of things. Well, I don't think this will do that, but you know, it's big, and I think that would be great for when you're going on retreats or to a class for stuff. So I must get on with that. So many projects, so little time. Okay, so I mentioned before that I had an interview with Johan from Australia, and I thought I would just insert a little teaser here so you can see what I'm talking about, and hopefully that will pique your interest to check out the full interview.
My next question for you is, so what type of sewer or crafter would you call yourself? I mean, are you traditional, modern, or experimental? How would you characterize yourself?
All those things, all those categories, all of them. I pick and choose from all types of styles, and I don't have a preference for any of them. But if I would have to choose one, it'd be experimental, because I like to try new things out, and things that are off the beaten path, and things that are not predictable. More so as I get older, I suppose.
Right.
So yeah, if it comes to categories, I would be pretty much more experimental, I suppose.
And in that interview, I have pictures of the various bears that he has created, and they are fantastic. In fact, he's working on a pattern for one for a koala, and I'm really interested when he gets that one done. I asked him if he was going to post it on his YouTube channel or whatever, because I would really like to have a copy of it and try my hand at making one of those as well. Okay, so that takes me to one of my quilts that I made some time ago and that I'm going to critique. So I'm going to insert that little section right here. My quilt this week that I want to critique is one that I did, probably a little over a year ago or longer. And it's an Angela Walters pattern, and it's called Starburst. and I was really pleased with the way this one turned out. I really like the colors I picked. Of course, I do really like blue, but overall I think it came out very nice. If you look at the points on each of the pieces, those ones came out pretty good. I didn't really cut off any points that I can see readily on here. Now there are a couple of spots I notice where I'm a little off on the alignment of the intersections, but that's also possibly the way it's laying on the carpet that I took the picture from of this quilt. If you notice the binding at the side, it is in a gradient color, and I believe that's the same color of fabric that I used on the back of this quilt. It's a little interesting in its design because the star itself is not in the center. It's off a little bit, which is it's intended to be. So you have a lot of interest here in each of the 4 quadrants of the quilt. In other words, they don't really match each other because of that. And that was one of the things that attracted me to this particular pattern. The quilting in it is absolutely perfect. But I wish I could do that as free motion, but I didn't. I actually did it on a long arm using a pantograph. So that's why my loops came out so nice and even. But I didn't want to attempt at that time to do it in my domestic machine and do free motion quilting because I spent a lot of time putting this together and I was really pleased with the end product. So I wanted to give the quilting a much more professional look. So overall, I'm very proud of this quilt. I think it looks great, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I have to say that that quilt is one of my favorite quilts. It was an Angela Walters, as I mentioned, pattern, and yeah, I was really happy with the way that one turned out. Okay, so that takes us to the online quilting store, quilt store, a review this week, and this one's called 3 Dogs Quilting, but this is a little bit different site, as you're going to see.
This week's fabric store online is actually a little different from what I usually review. This one is called 3 Dogs Quilting. It is in Ontario, Canada, and it is about thread and long arm quilting services. I don't usually review ones like this, but I thought I would here because they've got a really interesting selection of products. So let's take a look at what they have. So we're on the home page right now, and let's just scoot down and see what they've got. Featured categories: quilt restorations, quilting services, and quilters' top threads. There's a little note here by the owner. 3 Dogs Quilting finally became a reality in 2010. I always said that if I had the chance, I would take that opportunity and turn my loved hobby into a business. And as they say, the rest is history. The name 3 Dog Quilting was inspired from the love of my 3 little dogs, Johan, Sebastian, and Corky. Although they are no longer with me, the memory of them remains in my business name and logo. So let's go up and check a little bit more about us. I always like to do this. It gives me the idea of what it's all about. A little about Pauline Clark. I guess she's the owner. Having sewn and crafted since the age of 16, I turned my focus to quilting in 1993 after attending an evening class at a local high school. All I took was one class and I was hooked. After 20 years plus working in high tech, I decided to take my hobby of quilting and started my 3 Dogs quilting business. I expanded my business in 2011 by becoming Canada's initial glide thread distributor. I was instrumental in starting up the Kemptville Quilters Quilt back in 2000, who just recently celebrated its 20-year anniversary. I'm also an active member of several other quilt guilds. 3 Dogs Quilting is a home-based business with an online sales of haberdash threads. How did I come up with my business name, you ask? I had 3 dogs. We know that already read that. So, interesting. So she is a home-based quilter. And, well, let's check her store. And her store has threads and gift cards. And let's just go into threads and see what we have here. So, it looks like she has a variety. She has glide 40-weight thread. And she has box sets. She has Magna Glide Delights, which are L and M bobbins, pre-wound bobbins. She has 60 weight glide threads. And she has Affinity variegated threads and Primo soft spools of thread, which I'm not familiar with that brand, nor am I familiar with Allure Silk or Luminary. It's a glow-in-the-dark thread. That's interesting. Or Essence. So, not being a long-arm quilter, a lot of these threads are not known to me, but I do know and have heard about Glide. So let's just take a look if we have price on this. So they're in 1,000 meter and 5,000 meter spools. So they range in price. It looks like from $7 to $18.50. I would imagine that the larger spool is $18.50. Yeah, it shows you that there in the pull down menu. So not having bought thread that's specifically for quilting, I'm not sure if that is a good price or not. I think it's within the ballpark from what I've seen before. Now she has something called top threads, and these are Filtech Glide Quilter's top threads. And she talks about the coverage you'll get out of those and the strength. So basically this talks about each brand that she carries and yeah, a little bit about them. Now here's something interesting that's a little different. Quilt restorations. So she says, is your grandmother's treasured quilt showing its age? Did you pick up a quilt at a local antique or auction that needs some attention? Let me update your quilt with new batting or restore those hand quilted stitches back in. Not sure how to care for your old quilt? Contact me for information on how I can give your old quilt new life. So this is interesting. I've not ever seen this online before. So she says, step 1, bring your quilt in. Step 2, 3 dogs quilting magic. Step 3, you're happy. Okay, looks interesting. So I guess, and here's some pictures of ones that have had a problem that she has restored. So I guess if you have an antique quilt and you want to restore it, let's click on this picture. Yeah, so this one's been torn. And not sure what's wrong with that one. That one looks like it's got a stain on it of some sort. That must be kind of tricky to fix. And, oh, that's how she fixed it. I think, let's just go back. Yeah. She put an applique on top of it. Okay. And looks like this one might have a tear in it. And that's what it's like after it's repaired. So that very first one must have shown what it looked like after it had been repaired. Yeah, that's it right there. So that big hole is gone. So that's an interesting service. It doesn't look like she says what the price is. So I suppose that means it would depend on what you have to have fixed. Services. She does long arm machine quilting. And she has quilt restoration, as we know. Quick quilt basting services. You know, that might be interesting to look into. Again, no indication of cost, what that service would cost. So I guess this is all on an individual situation. She has a portfolio where she shows, I guess, pictures of her quilt restoration and projects and long arm services gallery. Let's just take a look at that. And she's just giving some samples of her quilting, which looks very nice. I would like to know the price, though. I'm curious about that. Testimonials, so what people have said and where she's going to be showing her services, upcoming quilt shows. So it's a site for those that want to have a professional machine, long arm machine quilt their quilts, and if you have a long arm and you're looking for threads, that seems to be what this is all about, and restoration as well. So a very interesting site for you to check out.
Now, I have never ordered anything from Three Dogs Quilting, so I don't know what their customer service is like, but it looks like if you're looking for thread, they may be a good site to go to. All right, so that brings us pretty much to the end of this week's episode. I do have some final thoughts, and this came on from that request I mentioned earlier where one of my viewers asked if I could give her the cutting dimensions for my gnome Christmas table toppers. That got me thinking about tutorials. I don't do tutorials yet. I am seriously thinking about it, but here's the problem with the tutorial. Okay, and there's several problems. One, when you're doing a tutorial, it takes a lot of time to edit the video for that kind of thing, to make it clear. The other thing is, it may generate a lot of questions, which I don't mind answering your questions whatsoever. But I am not an expert, okay? And you've heard me say that before. Thus the title, Idiot Quilter. I make mistakes, and I share those mistakes with you. So I don't know if I'm really comfortable yet with teaching people how to do certain things. The other thing is, there are a ton of tutorials done by people with a lot more experience than me on YouTube that are free that you can go to. Now, I am flattered that people have asked me to do tutorials. I really am. You know, you're putting a lot of confidence in me, and that's a real ego booster. But at the same time, I don't want to let you down. So I am seriously thinking of doing a tutorial for this table topper to get my feet wet and see what that is like. I mean, after all, I'm going to be making more of them anyways, so it's probably not that difficult to do a really short little tutorial on how to make one of those. But I'm just thinking about it. But when you send me a request, even for dimensions on things that I have made out of my own head, I may not be able to give you those dimensions because I didn't write them down. Now, I know that's a stupid thing. I should be doing that. In fact, I did write them down for that Christmas table topper after I was asked for the dimensions. I thought, you know, I should write that down. But I'm not a pattern maker. And a lot of quilts that I make that are my own design are improv, meaning I just sort of look at them and slap the pieces down together and see if that works. So I'm not in the mindset of writing that all down to create a pattern for the future. Also, I steal. I do, I admit it, I steal a lot of the ideas from existing patterns. And I usually tell you that too. I don't try to claim that something is absolutely original to me. Like that table topper that I made is not original to me. It's basic blocks. That's all it is. You know, that are classics. That's why I found it kind of surprising that someone wanted to know the cutting dimensions for that. But, you know, I have to remember too that everybody's at a different place on their little journey with this. And, you know, you have to start somewhere. So, okay. So anyways, bottom line here is this. I might do some tutorials in the future, and I might not. We'll just have to see. But thank you for having the confidence in me to think that I can actually do something like that. It's an ego boost. And tomorrow's my birthday. And Walter's been very mysterious about this. Now, I talked a lot about this on my vlog yesterday, so I'm not going to go over it again. You can go to the vlog and hear about that. But needless to say, I'm very curious about what the heck he got me. I told him not to get me anything. But he's been very, very mysterious. There's been strange packages from Amazon coming that he spirits away very quickly and says nothing about it. The other day, he went out to a couple of stores or something, and when I said, well, I'll go with you, and he goes, no, I'd rather you didn't. So we'll see. We'll see. I have to admit, it gets me all excited. And I think he's been bursting to tell me too, but he knows the rules. I have a rule about my birthday. My birthday must be celebrated on the day of my birthday. Not before, not after. And if you're giving me something, it has to be on that day. You cannot give it to me before. Well, you could give it to me after. I mean, because that's the day. That's the day. But anyway, so that makes me, I don't know, maybe I'm an eccentric. Okay, maybe. Okay, I'm rambling now. It's time to go. So I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week. And I hope you're double vaxxed or about to be. And yeah, have a great creative week. Sew something that makes you happy. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.